Good morning, everybody. All right, guys, this is a follow up to the radio show. For those of you who have been listening in the Philadelphia, New Jersey area, South Jersey area, you know that we've been talking about there are many clients that are calling in right now. And what they're finding is that they've been out of an apartment. They moved out of an apartment during the pandemic. And I had one specific client that comes to mind that moved out, bought a new home, and is now being sued for $30,000 under the rent agreement he had last year. So he was renting an apartment with his family, and they weren't paying the rent due to the pandemic, but they were able to qualify for a mortgage. And so they moved out early this year into their new home, and they're hereby receiving a letter indicating that they owe their prior landlord almost $30,000. What do they do in that situation? Well, what they do in that situation is make sure that amount of money doesn't become a judgment against them, especially if they live in the state of New Jersey. Now, guys, just let me pause for a moment. I tend to forget and get the advertising out of the way. If you're looking for a bankruptcy attorney in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, or Delaware, you want to call our office at 866-96-GM-LAW. That's 866-96-GM-LAW. And what I realized was my office, or me, I am in the green book for several churches, several congregations as an attorney to reach out to. And so over the years, and I never knew why, and it finally clicked. Over the years, we get calls for all kinds of issues, not only bankruptcies. And I always wondered, how did that happen? Because everybody knows me, or I see myself as a bankruptcy or commercial real estate attorney. And what has happened over the years, because we've been doing this for 20 years, we've been on the radio for 12 or 13 years. What has happened is me or my practice have found their way into the green books of several congregations. And so we get calls for all kinds of stuff, personal injury claims, medical malpractice claims, workers' compensation claims, Social Security disability. And I always wondered why. But now I realize it's because I'm in these green books. And so now that I'm with Margolis Edelstein, and so I'm a partner now in a 110 attorney law firm, I can actually help you guys with these cases. I have the ability or the bandwidth to really represent you in not only cases relating to bankruptcy, but we have partners in the firm who can help with personal injury claims, who can help with workers' compensation claims, who can help with Social Security disability claims, who can help, I worked with an adjuster on behalf of a client who I found to be well worth his salt. So I have a public adjuster now who works with us for clients, residential, clients who you may have a damage to your home and your homeowner's insurance company is giving you a really hard time paying for it. So we have a public adjuster that we work with now where we stay on as the attorney as we work through with the insurance company, getting you guys what you need to fix your homes. So now I have, because I'm a part of a 110 attorney firm, I have a broader bandwidth. In the past, I would just tell the client, look, I only am focused narrowly on bankruptcy and there's not much I can help you with. But now I've basically expanded my bandwidth with the help of some of my partners in my firm. And so now, I feel really honored to be in that green book or those green books now, because I can really help you guys on more than just bankruptcy. However, bankruptcy is my core. It's bankruptcy and commercial real estate. So I represent big box clients. I represent, companies buying hotels all over the country. But this is not what this is about. This is more like my public service, where I help regular people get themselves out of debt. So I really wear two hats. I'm a corporate attorney where I represent lots and lots and lots of corporations in traditional real estate, dirt law stuff, leasing, acquisition. I tell you, if it involves dirt, I can do it. I can do it. I can lease it, sell it, buy it, put debt on it, you name it. But that's my corporate hat. My other hat is really just helping individuals get themselves together. I don't and the two things seem to not work. And when I tell individuals, "Oh, I do commercial real estate, so I represent lots of people whose name, lots of companies whose name you go into a lot of stores, and I represent those tenants, or I represent the landlord for those tenants. There are lots of buildings you walk into where I've participated in purchasing or putting debt on those buildings." And so people are always puzzled. Wait, you represent all these corporations, but you also represent regular people. And that's just something I am passionate about. I really believe that the gifts that I was given, the knowledge that I have, not only should I take it to corporations and get them what they need, and really, when I represent a corporate client, I work my tail off, because it doesn't matter. That's what is expected of me, because they're paying really large fees. They're paying for, a result. And so I work day and night with a certain kind of vigor and with all that is expected of me. And I always, in my motto is to always go beyond what people expect. That's just how I'm built. But it's the same, I take that same mindset into representing individuals, into representing individuals who would never have the kind of money that the corporations have to pay me. So when I am doing a bankruptcy, it is with the same vigor. It's with the same, doing whatever it takes to get the client the result, the best result we can possibly get for them. But that's just a little bit of background about me and about really why I'm doing this. I think I'm 1 year away from being 50. I'm 49, or I'll be turning 49 in July. Oh, in this month. The 26th of this month is my 49th birthday. And I'm a bit reflective now. Why am I wearing these two hats? And how have I made these two hats work? And that's just it. When I represent my corporate clients, I'm going one step ahead of what is expected of me. And I feel like I have an obligation, especially to people that look like me or don't typically get that kind of representation because they can't afford it, to still give that level of representation to individuals. So that's what I'm doing, really. I am out here basically doing my best. I hate the word try. Doing my best to get individuals out of debt. And, there's a saying that I say all the time: why pay when you have the legal right to pay nothing? When an individual comes into my office, to me, they're no different. They're absolutely no different than a corporate client who walks into my office and expects a certain level of representation. Whether you're an individual or a Fortune 500 company, you come into my office, you're getting the same. The same. And I think that's what sets us apart from anybody else. One, I worked at some of the largest law firms in the country, and then I turned around and started representing individuals. Generally, that doesn't happen. And for some reason, I've made it work. And I'm proud of that. I mean, it made me feel really, really honored when I realized that we were all in all these green books, in all these handouts that churches give to their congregation, and we were seen as as trusted counsel. So if members of the congregation had an issue, our offices were up there as someone trusted to reach out to and resolve their issues. And for all those churches that have us as trusted counsel, I'm really honored, and I take that responsibility seriously. So, my corporate clients are not watching my YouTube pages and figuring out how they can get out of debt. My corporate clients, when I'm in front of them, I wear a completely different hat. It's all business, whether it's my private equity clients, whether it's my large landlords, commercial landlords, whether it's my large Fortune 500 retail clients. When Georgette walks in, I put on those kicking boots, and we in there to go to war. Well, Georgette takes that same attitude when I'm representing an individual. And if you've had any contact with my office at all, especially my Pennsylvania office, and you dealt with one of my associates, namely Michelle Lee in PA or Gabby in New Jersey, and Michelle or Gabby takes on an issue, it's like a dog with a bone. They don't let that puppy go unless we absolutely have to. Because, like I said, we take that attitude to representing our individual clients as we do our corporate clients. But enough about me. What we're talking about today is, now, during the pandemic, many of you, and I do mean many of you, were in apartments that you were renting for whatever the reason. You couldn't afford to pay the rent. And we're getting a lot of calls from individuals who are now being sued by the prior landlord. And, they're coming up with these numbers: 20,000, 30,000, 40,000. Now, let me explain something to you, because this is a bit of confusion for the clients that are coming in. Typically, on the most leases, if you default, I had a client say, well, Miss Miller, I didn't pay only 3 months rent. How is it that they're suing me for $20,000, $30,000? In most leases, definitely in commercial leases, possibly if you have one of those form residential leases, if you break the rent, meaning you walk away, you stop paying, you're in default. You're not keeping up with your obligation. What happens is, even though you may have left and in your mind only not paid 3 months rent, the damages to the landlord is everything that was to be paid on that under that lease plus attorney's fees. So you may have had a year and a half left on the lease. So all the payments you would have made had you stayed till the end of the lease, you are still liable. And some landlords have an obligation to mitigate damages, but let's not get into that. Just for all intention purposes, just think all of the amounts you would have paid under the lease, you're still obligated to pay. And that's what the landlord is suing you for, plus their attorney's fees. So in your mind, you may have only owed the landlord $3,600, but you're getting a letter saying you're going to be sued for $30,000. That's how that calculation comes about. And there may be additional damages charges, if you don't really read the fine print in a lease. And right now, before the end of today, I have to go through a 40-page lease and get that done for one of my corporate clients. And I have to read every word of that lease because I have to protect my client's position. But if you're not doing that in a residential lease, that's how you get tripped up. Yeah, it's 4th of July and I'm going to have to work because I got to get that lease out for my clients sometime today. Because the expectation is I will get it out sometime today. So if you haven't done that, then that's how you get tagged with this letter or possibly this suit indicating that you're going to be sued for $30,000 for a lease that you thought you only stopped paying 3 months before you left. And in one instant that comes to mind clearly is a client that left and then they bought a house, right? They bought a house and they're now living their best lives, paying a mortgage on their own home. And then all of a sudden they have this $30,000 debt that they now have to deal with. In this situation, or in the client situation that I'm thinking of, we're going to file a Chapter 7 for that client. And we're going to get the $30,000 discharged, meaning they won't have any obligation to make that any payment on that $30,000. And we want to do it before we're clear to the client. You need to get this done before this suit becomes a judgment. And the reason you want that to do it before this suit becomes a judgment is once it becomes a judgment, that is now a lien against your home, especially in New Jersey. It's a lien against your home and against all your personal property. So once it becomes a judgment, they can now garnish your wages. They can now levy your bank accounts, and there is a lien against your property. Now, when you're in bankruptcy, we can get that done. We can get all that taken care of. But now your case is now a more expensive case because we got to do all this additional work. I'm one of the rare attorneys who is trying to save you money. Because in my mind, I want to try and keep as much money in your pocket as possible. If I was doing this solely for money, this is not what I would be doing. So I am urging that client, and I urge my clients, hey, look, come file a 7 prior to becoming a judgment, because my fee now is X. If it becomes a judgment, and now I have to file motions and go toe-to-toe with the bank, which I will, it's going to cost you more. So instead of paying me more money, come get this Chapter 7 done as soon as possible and put this behind you. Now, many of you will think to yourself, now, how can I file a Chapter 7 and I own a home? Don't matter. There's this false information out there that says if you have a home, you can't file bankruptcy. Hogwash, rubbish. This client in particular, they just bought their home. And what does that mean? There's not much equity in the home. If your home doesn't have much equity, it means that even if you file a Chapter 7, and when the trustee does his analysis, his or her analysis, they're trying to determine if they sell your home, is there any money left for them and the creditors? If you just bought your home, there's not enough money in the house, there's not enough equity in the house, that if you sold the house, there's anything left for their credit, for your creditors or for the trustee. Because why? The bankruptcy court affords you, depending on what state you live in, exemptions. In New Jersey, it's like $25,000 per owner. In New York and Delaware, it's like $125,000 to $150,000 per owner. So there's lots of equity of exemptions available to protect your equity. So the trustee is going to step back and say, okay, I sell this house. There's a mortgage on it. I get $200,000 if I sell this house. I'm going to have to pay the mortgage company $180,000. Then I got to pay the broker $6,000 on this home. Okay. And then so there's $14,000 left. But out of that $14,000, I get nothing because the debtor gets to protect the first $25,000 at a minimum. Okay, so I'm not going to go through all this work to sell this house because I ain't going to get no money. That's how your house is protected. So this client come in, there's not enough equity in the house. We're going to file a Chapter 7, get rid of this $30,000 so that they can go back to living their best life in their home, in their brand new home. And no, they're not going to lose their property. They just continue to pay the mortgage and they keep it. So that's the 411 on that. That's how you do this. That's how you make this puppy work for you. I always ask the question, why are you all paying when you have the legal right to pay nothing? And now that all the creditors have started to wake up out of hibernation and, they're coming to get their money, think of it as a bear who went into hibernation. And he hungry. He now needs to eat. He's been sleeping, hibernating for like a year and a half during the pandemic. Now he needs to wake up and eat. You need to make sure you are not lunch. Protect yourself by any legal means necessary, right? This is a game of life. And in this game of life, you do whatever it takes to protect yourself. So if you're one of those individuals now who you've been out of this apartment and you're being sued because you've walked away and the landlord is trying to come after you for back rents or damages under a lease you walked away from, you will not be lunch. Call our office, 866-96-GM-LAW. That's 866-96-GM-LAW. Or you can go to georgettmillerlaw.com. That's georgettmillerlaw.com. And we do free consultations for bankruptcies. Also, again, because we've been privileged enough to be a trusted attorney in so many of these green books. We also, I'm now a part of a 110 attorney law firm. So I have partners in the law firm where I practice, Margolis Edelstein, where we can do personal injury claims on your behalf now. We can do workers' compensation claims on your behalf now. We can do Social Security disability claims on your behalf. And if you're in a situation where you have a huge damage to your home and you're going toe to toe with the insurance company trying to get your home repaired, we've teamed up with trusted pump, well, one. I've teamed up with one trusted, I've put him through the fire, public adjuster where we stay on as the attorney as we work in getting you the funds you need under your homeowner's insurance policy to get that claim paid and get your home repaired. Again, call our office, 866-96-GM-LAW, 866-96-GM-LAW. We're in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Delaware. 866-96-GM-LAW. 866-96-GM-LAW. Now, as they say in my country, walk good, and I'll talk to you all next week.